Hey everybody, it's your favorite gentleman and Gentleman Style Podcast show, Marcus Norman. And today we have a dynamic speaker. This man is a powerful success story, and this man is an inspiration to us all, to me. All right, and so I want to bring him on today. You all are going to stay with us, stay tuned, and stay engaged. You won't want to miss a power-packed episode. We are bringing a lawyer. You know, they're my favorite people to bring on the show, and we're going to talk about some things, and we're going to talk about this man's success story because it is a true inspiration. So stay tuned, stay with us, stay engaged. Here we go. Everybody, it's your favorite gentleman, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we have Mr. Lamar C. Brown, Esquire. He is a lawyer, speaker, government leader, and strategist. This man leads the community strategy and outreach for Lyft throughout the Midwestern United States. In this role, he partners with third-party organizations, passengers, and drivers through social impact initiatives to support and promote Lyft's policy initiatives and reforms. Mr. Lamar also worked alongside many of our elected leaders and on several state and local campaigns. Most recently, he served as a political director for Cook County State Attorney Miss Kim Fox's winning primary campaign. Outside of his political work, Mr. Lamar is a certified mediator for small claims in state court and regularly volunteers as a member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc. Incorporated. Please help me welcome to the stage the incredible, the amazing, Mr. Lamar C. Brown, Esquire.
Marcus, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me on the show, brother. This is dope. So glad to have you, sir.
Yes. I'm thrilled. I'm excited. Love the intro, man. You're bringing the vibes already, bringing the high energy, and I just want to continue to pour that back into this show, man. I'm so grateful that you guys are having me on the show today.
Absolutely. We are a pleasure to have you, sir. One more round of applause, y'all. Mr. Lamar, diving right in, sir, you are a powerhouse. And yes. that rendition of your bio serves you no justice, brother. I've been reading your bio all day, and all week, just gleaning inspiration from it and just learning from you and just kind of trying to envision myself. It's like, man, this man is dynamic. This man is powerful. But before we get to your story, I have to ask, successful people have successful habits, things that they do day in and day out, every single day, consistently, without fail. What is something that you do every single day that really sets the tone for the rest of your day and lets you know that you're going to have a good day today? It could be yoga, meditation, some word or some scripture, or a phone call to friends and family who uplift you and people who inspire you, or a mentor. What is that one thing that you do?
Yeah, routine is something that I think drives and carries me throughout my day. There are a few things that I do. I work out every day. I wake up at about 5 a.m. every day, and I work out. I start with obviously prayer, and then I make breakfast before my workout, and then I'm at the gym sometimes by 6 a.m. And I know it's going to be a good day when I can get that workout in. And I get a reminder on my phone every day at noon to pause for like 2 to 3 minutes to just thank God for everything that I've done in my life. And that everything that he's done for me in my life. And so moving with the spirit of gratitude and just discipline is something that carries me throughout my day for sure.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I love that, sir. What y'all don't see is this man actually cut up underneath that shirt. He's being modest, y'all, but he's actually swole underneath that shirt. Don't mess with him. He's still, although he's a lawyer, you wouldn't want to cross paths with him. But thank you for that. Absolutely. And so who's someone that inspired your journey? You've had an extensive, I don't want to say trial, but you've been tested. You've been tested along the way. Who is someone that has encouraged you and motivated you to continue to fight and to stay in while you pursued your Juris Doctorate?
Yeah, I wish there was just one person who motivated me, but I am a collection of experiences and I'm a collection of people who've all contributed in some way. It truly takes a village, man. I didn't grow up with much. Realized that I was very, very poor. I don't know how my grandmother did it, but man. I use the environment around me as an example of what not to become. I grew up, I don't know if you're familiar with like Gangster Disciples and Chicago landscape at least, but my uncle was sort of a high ranking guy in that gang. And I think I used a lot of the guys in the community and their habits, and it sort of informed what I shouldn't do. And so that's really what sort of started the wheel in motion. Like, okay, I want to do something different than what I'm seeing, because most people, right, fall into the trap of sort of emulating their environment, right? They fall right into this cycle, right? And sometimes I ask myself, like, wow, how was it that I didn't fall into this cycle? And it's only because I've had people around me, my grandmother from the Park District supervisor who I was in day camp with, and, mentors through like this program that I was in junior high school, right? Like, so just a bunch of different folks and a bunch of different experiences that have really helped push me along the way.
Takes a village. It definitely takes a village. So when did you know that you had the bug? You have an incredible mind and you have a overwhelming determination and perseverance. You could accomplish anything you set your mind to. Why go down the path of attaining your law, becoming a lawyer and attaining your Juris Doctorate in that profession? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the first in your family to be a lawyer. Why pursue a law degree?
Yeah. So, oh man, growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to become, right? You hear these stories about, hey, I want to be a firefighter. I want to do this. And for me, I didn't really know. But I knew what kind of heart I had, right? And I knew that I have a servant's heart. And, early on, even in high school, I started a nonviolence prevention program. I knew all of the lunch people, knew all of the janitors by name. I would speak to them everywhere and every time I saw them in school. I was a principal's aide, an office aide. I did in Chicago public schools, you have to do 50 service hours to graduate high school. I had like 500. And wow. Yeah. And so, what I figure is like, okay, public service is sort of that's my life's purpose. Right. And I think purpose should drive us in everything that we do. We may have detours and may slightly deviate from it, but it should be our North Star. And I think once I started to get through college, the options and sort of the field got a lot smaller to your point, for where I wanted to go and for the work that I wanted to do. And law was the path for me, for sure, to influence my community in the best way possible, and also provide security for myself and my family in the future.
Humble, y'all. Did I forget to mention he's also very humble, a humble man. So that makes perfect sense. You are overachiever, you're a public servant right there. 500 hours. Overachiever. Yeah, I love it. You had a heart, right? You had a heart and you knew you wanted to give back and you had a passion for people. So you actively started an organization and you partner with Lyft, right? And you're the lead community strategy and you lead that program, the Lyft, throughout the Midwestern United States. Tell us about that program and why is that significant to you?
Yeah, so generally what we find is that, Black, brown people, particularly in, urban centers like Chicago and other places, are shut out and under-resourced, right? From decades long disinvestment in our communities. And this role as a strategist for Lyft was incredibly important to me because it was a nice mixed bag of all of my skills and experiences in law and government and politics and community engagement. And, it's an intersection of all of those things. And so in this role, I'm able to be the voice at the table on a national stage with the company and say, hey, this program needs to partner with this organization in Chicago. And here's why. Today, we've particularly recently with the vaccine program that we've been rolling out, provide under-resourced communities rides to vaccination sites. We've donated over $150,000 in rides to organizations that are serving seniors, serving the reentry community, serving job seekers, essential workers, all of those people to get to and from work, get to and from our vaccination sites and things like that. And so that's just one component of the impact work that we do here at the company.
Wow. It's major. We have one quick commercial break. You all don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. Stay engaged. We'll be right back. Good day, podcast listeners. This is your boy, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I wanted to let you guys know that we will be rolling out a new feature and adding a join sponsor button next to the subscriber button here at the bottom of your screen. Once you click the button, it will display 3 membership levels. Gentleman Gentry, which is our entry level, Duke Duchess, which is our season level, and the Emperor and Empress, which is our most sophisticated level, which you will receive unique perks and benefits at each differing level and gain access to our community tab. We will also be sharing polls, upcoming events, and interviews, as well as receive feedback from our sponsors directly. Your support helps me find new and exciting guests to bring to the stage live. Well, in order to get the higher end speakers, it requires, you guessed it, money. So thank you for tuning in to my channel. And if becoming a sponsor sounds good to you, then select the join button below and choose your desired sponsor level. Let's continue to grow and serve the future of generations of men and women to come. Love you guys. Bye. We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we have Lamar C. Brown, Esquire. He was breaking down his initiative, his heart of public service and giving back to his community and having a pure heart of gold, and why he's on a mission to change his community one Lyft car, one Lyft driver at a time, and to give back and allow people to get to work, to get to their places of employment, to get to the grocery store and get around town without being impacted socioeconomically and their pockets not being able to afford a safe transportation around where they live. If you missed that, scroll back and check that out. Mr. Lamar, diving right in, I have to ask, you just did a public event. You were a board member and a member of the Networking on Purpose event that happened recently. The focus of that event was serving up justice both inside and outside the workplace. So can you share some of the topics discussed on that board in that board session, and why, and what is it that you guys are seeing in your local communities where people are being disadvantaged inside and outside of the workplace?
Yeah. So essentially that discussion and Networking on Purpose featured three speakers, including myself, and top HR professionals at major companies. And the conversation was centered around how do we advocate for Black folks, right, inside of traditionally white corporate spaces. And what that means is that how do we steer resources? How do we steer opportunities to those people who are traditionally shut out and don't have a voice? And so when we talk about networking on purpose, there's a purpose behind these interactions that we're a part of, and these environments that we occupy. And the call specifically was to benefit an organization in Detroit that focuses on the reentry community and providing justice involved individuals with opportunities to work, with opportunities to learn and grow skill sets, and be productive members of their community after they return back from their time away.
Right. Do you think that that is a world problem, or do you think that's a singular event that's happening in your local community?
Oh no, it's a world problem. It's a question of the haves and the have-nots, right? And traditionally, we don't have access. It's always been that way. We think about where the wealth lies in this country. It doesn't lie with you and me, right? And so, being able to be in these spaces and advocate for folks that look like you and me is incredibly important.
Makes sense. We have a question. We have several questions from our VIP sponsors of the show, Miss Erica Holmes. She asked the questions. What part of Cook County are you working in? And yes, he's single. So I'm gonna get that out the way. I'm gonna spill the tea on him. But she asked, what part of Inglewood are you in, sir?
So currently I am in Chicago. I live on the southeast side on South Shore, and some folks wonder why. Hey, well, why don't you live downtown? You got this big fancy title and you got this job, and I like to be around Black people. There's nothing against anybody else, but our culture moves the world, and we have our own problems, right? Everyone does, but being in a community and seeing the real impact of investment or disinvestment and where you live is important for the kind of things that we fight for, and also the conversations that we have in those circles. So again, back to that networking on purpose line that we just throw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to dive into this. And it's hard because it involved George Floyd. We just recently got justice, or in some cases, justice for George Floyd's police officer, his assassination, his murder. Finally got justice. Can you answer the question? What took so long for that result to happen? Why did it take so long for George Floyd's killer, the police officer, to finally be brought to justice? Can you shed some light on the overall inner workings of the justice system and why that took so long to happen?
Well, what I can say, because all the information's out there and it's public, right? What I can say is, from my perspective, the polarizing nature of that case, and the outcry that came from that case is what sort of held it up, I think, personally, because there's, outside of a regular murder, right, case, sometimes they're open and shut, right? But with this one here, because it was a murder, right? I personally think he received less time than he should have. I think he should have gotten significantly more time. He didn't even get the state's maximum for that murder charge that he received eventually. And so I think that the polarizing nature of the case, the evidence and the witnesses that had to be deposed, that had to be interviewed, different interrogatories that had to be filed, it just created a firestorm And I think that's sort of what held the case up itself. Um, and yeah, obviously we were in a pandemic as well. So a lot of, justice, the courts and people are not working, and it was a really slow process because of all of those things.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. Thank you for
Yeah.
shedding a light on that, and thank you for talking about that topic. What advice would you give to the young boy or young girl? Because you talked about this earlier, you touched on this earlier. The whole purpose of you wanting to be a lawyer was to protect your family, protect your legacy, but also to protect your community from injustice. And
Sure.
so, what advice would you give to that young boy or that young girl or that mom, that single mother or that single father out there who wants to protect their child, but they don't know the legalese? And I know your jurisdiction is you're limited to where you are, right? You can only speak for the laws in your state. But are there any practices or ideas or beliefs or ideas that you can share, or tips that you can share to say, hey, do this if you have an encounter with the police, or do this or call this person first if you have an encounter with the police?
Sure. My first thing that I'd tell anyone who's having an encounter with the police is to say nothing. And
Really?
say nothing. Say nothing.
Wow.
And call for a lawyer right away. Right. Because anything right, your Miranda rights say that anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. It's my advice that you should absolutely say nothing, invoke your right to silence. They know your rights, right? And call for an attorney. And then they have to absolutely cease all questioning, anything, right? So that would be the first thing I would say is, even if you don't have a lawyer, call someone who has authority to get you a lawyer right away. Second, if you are asked to step out of the vehicle, if it's an auto stop, and if they have probable cause, if an officer does have probable cause to stop you, right? Because they do, it could even be a pretextual stop sometimes, right? Don't fight them, right? Right. You don't have to give them consent, like to search your trunk or anything, right? But if they're telling you to step out of the vehicle, sometimes you're doing more harm than good when you're saying no, I don't want to. Yeah, for sure. And that's generally how it goes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Sir, you you passed the bar exam, but you did something unique. You delayed your swearing in. To why did you delay your swearing in after overcoming so much? Right? You've had several. You've traveled the world. You've learned and studied law extensively. Why did you delay your swearing in of your law? Of your becoming a lawyer?
Yeah, and so this sort of gets back to the deeper story behind this whole thing, right? So I'm a middle child of 7, right? I was born and raised in Inglewood, which is Chicago's hardest hit community, by my grandmother. My mother was I was born a cocaine addicted child, and so my mother was not in my life, right? She was in the streets. And my dad was nowhere around. And I thank God every day for my grandmother, who sort of left her career early, and retired and adopted my siblings and myself. And up from where I grew up, to what I've had to overcome, to frankly failing over and over again, right? being told that I can't do a certain thing because of my grades, or like I had to take the LSAT 4 times, right, to get into law school the first time. I attended law school in 2012 in Charlotte, North Carolina. And after 1 year there, I was on a summer internship in China. And I had gone on faith. I am a man of faith. And I knew, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to definitely get back into school the next year, right? My grades, I was on academic probation the first semester. And so to not get dismissed, I had to improve that following semester. And I did, but I missed the mark. And as I was away, 15 hours away in China, I received a note that I had been dismissed from law school.
What?
And so my life and my life plan came crashing down, right in front of me. And so I didn't have a plan B. My plan was to go to law school. And so I took the next flight back as soon as I could, back to Charlotte, where I was living at the time, in Charlotte, at the Charlotte Law School. And I sold everything I had, and slept on the floor for the next 2 weeks until it was time for me to leave and go home to Chicago. During that time, I think I became closer to God, and it really reinvigorated, my belief in myself and my belief in my journey, and that was not the end, but it was also a new beginning, just a different path. And so I came back to Chicago, and I felt every emotion that you could feel. I felt. I failed. I've been hurt. I've been betrayed. But I've always stayed positive and true to my North Star, is that my purpose in life is greater than myself. And more than that, I'm doing this for my family, right? I've always said that I'm like the seed in the ground, right? And it's cold, it's dark, right? And it's lonely. But if I continue to pour water, then the seed will eventually grow into a tree. And so my nieces and my nephews and my children won't have to work as hard as I have to work, or won't have to endure the same obstacles and hurdles that I've had to endure. And so, and knowing that, I dug myself back in, and I got back into law school in 2015, all while I was working in a leadership position for City of Chicago in a government affairs role. And so going to law school almost full time, 11 and 12 credits per semester, and also leading a government affairs for a city agency of the third largest city in America, was no easy feat. And it required a lot of me, being absent from things, sacrificing a ton. But I finally was able to do it. I failed the bar the first time. I failed the bar exam the first time. I left that job, failed the bar, and was unemployed for 2 months following. And eventually lost my grandmother that same October that I got the notice that I failed the bar. But before she passed, she told me, she said, take it as many times as you need to. You're going to pass. I believe in you. You're going to pass. And, while she's on her deathbed, and, this woman who actually saved my life, my grandmother saved my life. She had so much belief in me that while she was on her deathbed, she offered me that reassurance. And over the next year, the following summer, 2020, in the pandemic, I took the bar exam again, and I passed. And so, taking everything full circle, you ask, well, why did you wait? Because I waited because this was so much bigger than just myself. I didn't want to stand in front of a virtual screen, and take my attorney's oath, because I owed it to myself and everyone else who helped me on the journey, that they be there in person to witness this, because it wasn't just a victory for me. It was a victory for everyone involved. And so my mother was there a few other individuals who I grew up with in Inglewood together, who I grew up in Inglewood with, were there. A judge, another lawyer, a few other attorneys, a couple friends. It was during the workday, so a lot of folks weren't able to make it, but this was a win for everyone who's been a part of my journey. It's been a 10-year journey almost. I started law school the first time in 2012, and I just got sworn in this past May. And so I felt everything, and I failed over and over again, but I've never given up. I've never stopped. I never folded. And I think that's what separates the successful people and those who are not successful, is the tenacity and the grit that they have, right? To endure struggle after struggle, maintain a belief in yourself, and continue to just push through and not give up. And I think that's sort of where I am, and that's why I delayed it. It just meant that much to me.
Absolutely. Sir, what would you say to that young boy, that young girl, that young man in the audience who is back against the wall? They're fighting and fighting, and they're tired of fighting, and they want to give up. They feel it in their bones. They're tired, they're exhausted, because you put in the work, you put in the grind. You not only was going back to law school, but you also worked, right? You worked, you was on boards, you was a public defender, you was all these different things. You work. What would you say to that young man or that young girl who's back against the wall and they want to give up?
First, don't give up. But two, your struggles are so much. There's so much more in your struggle than you think. And I think that if you embrace the struggle, we tend to run from difficult things in our lives, right? We tend to take the easy routes. But if you are able to sit in it and find beauty in your struggle, I think that there's so much more ahead of you than what's behind you. And then you also need to just ask for help. You'd be surprised how many people just want to help and pay it forward. And I owe a debt to all of those people in my life, because I didn't get here on my own. I'd be remiss if I said that I was just this miraculous person. And yes, I did some work, but it truly takes a village. And so pride will kill more dreams than you think, right? Pride will keep you in your dark place. But when you ask for help, you're able to get lifted from that dark place, because there'll be 20 hands reaching down to pull you up, right? And so for that young boy or that young girl, I would say, have a strong belief in yourself. Know that greater is coming, and ask for help, because help is always there. And there's a village everywhere you go. And people, the human spirit, people generally are good, I think, personally, and they want to do good and they want to help. So.
Sir, what do you have next? What's in store? What's the next move for you, sir? What are you planning next?
As I mentioned, part of my purpose is giving back to young boys and young girls. I care a lot about developing young men. And I think that one project that I have that I've been thinking about is a civic leadership academy here in Chicago for youth, high school age youth, to teach them about their communities, laws, government, and how they can influence their community through those different avenues. Also teaching on wealth building, right? Financial management.
Yes.
Health and wellness is incredibly important. spirituality, right? Because I think personally, I think my religious principles guide me in a lot of the areas that I occupy in my life. And I think being able to be an example for those young men and women is going to be the next thing that I add to my plate to help continue to fulfill my purpose in life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How can
Indeed.
we connect with you, sir? How can we learn more from you? How can we glean? I've learned so much in the past week that we've become Facebook friends. How
Yeah.
can we all connect with you and grow with you, sir?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Instagram at Lamar C Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at Lamar C Brown. Facebook, Lamar C Brown. Really consistent branding. No, but yeah, guys, follow me. I am working on a few speaking engagements as well, and so as I mentioned, I'm working on a website that will feature most of those. And you may see me on your television screen sometime soon. So that may be another opportunity to stay connected with me. But um, through all of that, the best way to stay connected is just to do good. I think good follows good people. And just as you found me, Marcus, and we're connected, and I'm very thrilled at our connection. I'm very excited for it. I think that your viewers can also attest to the same thing. And there's always this. I think it's less than 6 degrees, right? But,
Yes.
but people are always connected. Good people are always connected. So looking forward to connecting with all of you. I'm really grateful that you've had this time, that we've had this time to share my story. And so I really appreciate that.
Appreciate you. Sir, I want to say this to you publicly. Thank you for everything. The world is changed by you. The world is inspired by you and influenced by you every single day. So I want to say this to you publicly. Don't ever give up, because we need you. We need what you're doing. We need the path that you're on. The train has already left the station, but it's not too late to get on board. And so I thank you, brother. And I want to say this: don't ever quit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely. And I want to say this to you all, my audience. Thank you for tuning in to the Gentleman Style Podcast show. I hope this message has served you, and I hope this helps take your mindset and inspiration to the next level. Because if your back's against the wall, and if you're feeling like you can't do it, and you're feeling like you can't achieve, you can. You are limited by nothing. Let nothing get in your way. And here, my brother, Mr. Lamar C. Brown, is taking charge of his life, and he's paving the way as an inspiration. He's carving a new path for us to follow, and for us to be side by side and lock arms and take this world by storm. So like I end every show, take care of your families, take care of your friends, and take care of business. This is Marcus Norman, Gentleman Style Podcast Show, your favorite gentleman, and Mr. Lamar C. Brown, Esquire. Connect with him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you.